Part 11, the practice run. So, it was all set up and my American counterparts were all set, but this Sheely was just going to be a practice run. Was it going to be a practice run? It was going to be a practice run, but it turned out to be the real thing. But they were going to send something back, but not what you think. So it was the first day of actually doing it. It was supposed to be early morning, and what we decided to do was I found a quarry in Chilliwack near a lake. And they didn't like any of my landing spots. They wanted to go further down, so they sent me some coordinates in which I had to fly to. So that morning, it was incredibly stressful. I had water and food in a part of the cargo hold. And the reason I had food and water is I thought if we crash and we don't die, that we're going to need food and water for the 50-mile walk through the mountains to get back to Canada. So we got up early that morning to start. My weather report was not listening to like tuning into the pilots' weather reports, broken clouds, and seeing what it was like 50 miles ahead. My weather reports were sliding the hangar door open, and if I could see the mountains in the US, which were about 5 nautical miles away, we were good to go. So first morning of the first flight, incredibly nervous. I pushed the helicopter out. I'd actually hired a friend of mine that was going to do the bags. I won't name this person, but yeah, he sat with me that morning, and I'll tell you a couple of poignant moments. It was really early in the morning, so it was dark, it was so cold, it was winter time. I didn't know how to work the heater in it, and we had bought one of these handheld GPSs from the fishing store because I didn't know how to work the navigational system on the helicopter. So he was reading that, and I didn't know how to turn the lights on in the 206. So we were kind of stuffed. No lights, no heat. So he just shined a flashlight or torch on the control panel, and I started the helicopter up. I remember him sitting there, and he said something. I won't give away how many kids he has, but he said, "Hey, can you do this?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I can." And he goes, "Well, I've got a family, and I don't want to end myself today." And I said, "I'm telling you, I can do it." And he said, "Well, I trust you. We live together, we ride together." And that's what we did. I fired that helicopter up under a flashlight and a wing and a prayer. And I believe that day it had to be minus 10 degrees. We were so cold. Got it up in the air. I could barely feel anything because we were rugged up in parkas, and I had my gloves off. He was watching everything, and off we went. Everything went wrong that morning. Everything. We flew around literally for hours. I wouldn't say for hours, but for a fair while, because they were running late. We end up flying up to, I flew into a creek and started just practicing doing some landings because it was taking so long. And that morning also, I believe that it was taking that long. I was starting to get worried about fuel, that we went and parked on top of a mountain away from Chilliwack Airport or any of this. And there was this big open field on the top of a mountain. So I came in and landed on that, and I did have a map, and I was trying to learn how to read a map. My friend went off and walked to have a look at this building that looked absolutely shattered. And this was on the first morning, I'll give you. So by now it was pretty late in the morning. So I remember him going over to have a look at this building because it looked like a building had been shot up. And I was just waiting on the phone and also just looking up the map that was in the door and trying to figure out where we were. So I looked at where the airport was and figured out how far back we were. And I seen this big red ring around this mountain, and it looked like a clearing at the top. So I figured that's where we were. So I wondered what that red ring was. So then, of course, back then, turned to the index and look it up, and it said Canadian military bombing area. So that building was shot up because that's where the military practiced shooting them up, and we were sitting right in the middle of it. If I can say, without all the other pressure, then my heart, I'm like, we've got to get out of here. We can't just sit here. So I fired the helicopter up. My friend heard the helicopter running and come running back and jumped in. And I said, we are in the middle of a bombing range. We need to get out of here. So off we go. We flew up. We went and parked on a rock somewhere. And then I got the word that they were coming in. So I flew over to the quarry, and as I was circling at about 700 feet above this little town, and the quarry was on the edge of town, I could see a couple of police cars in the area. I couldn't believe it. And then I could see the van coming, and I knew the color of it, and I could see that he was on this road heading to the quarry, and I thought that's our pickup. So from about 700 feet, it was game on. So I nosed that chopper straight to the ground, and we dropped like a stone. As he came off the road and came into the quarry, I come flying in behind him like something out of a movie. As they say, I came in hot and hard. And I came up and went a little bit high, but I dropped that helicopter within 10 feet of the van. As the back of it came up, my blades were over the top of the van, and my partner was out. A couple stupid things I did is I remember seeing the police circling different parts of this little town. I actually flew in with my back to the road, so I couldn't actually see what was happening. I was strapped in that hard that I just couldn't see it. So my heart was panicking. I believe at the time it was about 175 to 200 pounds. So it was about 4 hockey bags that we got thrown onto the back seat. My buddy jumped up. He wasn't even in the door before I started pulling up on the collective, and I just basically pulled up very high, turned around, nosed that thing, and flew through the quarry, and out we went. We were not in the I personally was not in the talkative mood. Once that stuff was on board, everything changed. Everything got real.